All right, hello world. My name is Dorothy. I have over 10 years of traveling experience. That's a combination of life and work, and I decided to create a podcast where we dive into the do's and don'ts of travel, help you become the kind of passenger that everyone wants to fly with. Whether you're a frequent flyer or a first timer, I've got the advice to make your journey smoother. Welcome to Airplane Talk. Today we have Boris. He'll be joining us today.
For having me. I'm
of
very
course.
Excited.
No problem. Today's episode is about making plans on your travel day. So I always like to start off with an icebreaker. Here's mine, and then you'll talk about yours. How early do you like to get to the airport? I like to get to the airport early. I hate feeling very rushed. You never know what security is like. I like to give myself about an hour to an hour and a half leeway of going through security and then getting to the gate. I'm also a lounge girly. My lounge is at the airport that I'm traveling out of. I want to be able to have enough time to go to the lounge, then get to the gate and board my plane. How early do you like to get to the airport?
So, really quick question before I answer that is, you like to get to your gate or like to get to the airport, you said an hour to an hour and a half. You have 10 years of flying experience. Do you have like any stories of giving you the lesson to go an hour and a half earlier or versus later?
Last year, traveled through Barcelona, and internationally, like, the line was crazy. You first had... Well, because it's an international airport in Barcelona, you had passport control. So that was the first section, right? And that line just wrapped, and you actually had to go upstairs. The line downstairs wasn't even the line to go to passport control. It was the line to get to passport control, which was another line. And then you still needed to go through security. I just think you never know what you're approached with when you get to the airport. Sometimes technology fails us, right? So those machines that are at TSA, even here in the US, can break down because things happen. They're used to having 6 machines working, now only 3 are working, which makes the lines a little bit longer, and no one accounts for things like that to possibly happen. So I think you have to give yourself enough time because you just never know.
You know, I have a 2-year-old toddler, and before he was born, I would take advantage of TSA and get to the airport maybe like 45 minutes to an hour before my flight.
Right.
And I would just like breeze on through TSA, and I'm looking at these people like in regular line. I'm like, ha ha ha, whatever, right?
Right.
And then to what you mentioned is you never know when something breaks down. And I was taught a valuable lesson when I had a flight to Vancouver, Canada. I showed up maybe like an hour before, which I normally do. Breeze through, and I'm in my gate within maybe like 15 to 20 minutes max.
Okay.
This day, something at TSA had broke, so everyone was now moved to general.
Okay.
And man, that line was super long. I was freaking out, sweating bullets. And I'm just trying to like ask people like, oh my gosh, excuse me. And I felt just like an idiot, right? Just because I'm like trying to skip the line. I'm trying to be that guy that everyone hates.
Right.
Sorry, I have a flight to catch. Well, shoot, dude, everyone else does too, right?
Correct, yes.
That taught me a valuable lesson, but to answer your question, I like to get to the airport probably like 2.5 hours beforehand now, just because I like to hang out, right, grab a beer, maybe my kid just walking around the escalator and just kind of looking at airplanes. So that's where I'm at.
Nice. So we'll dive right into it, and it's making plans on your travel day, which I think is the possibly like worst thing you can do. And when I say making plans, if you have a business meeting like right after your flight land, or if you have a wedding that you're like have to attend, as soon as your flight lands, you might have 2 hours to get there. Some people push it to the limit, and I think it's wrong because anything can happen. The plane can get to the gate, and although it flew from wherever it came from and it lands, then something in the cockpit doesn't work. Now maintenance is on board. Now you're stuck at the gate for another 2-3 hours before they can fix it. Sometimes fixing it doesn't happen, so they have to find you another plane. That takes a lot of time, and people don't think of things that way. They don't prepare for the worst. They just think, oh, I bought a ticket, I'm going to go from point A to point B, and that's it, and I'm going to get there. And that's what we want. We want to manifest that. It's going to happen. I'm sure it happens 9 times out of 10, right? But for those that get really upset and angry and start to flip out on the plane because they're not going to make their meeting or they're not going to make it in time for the ceremony, that's no one's fault but your own for deciding to travel that day. I mean, I go back to Barcelona, left the cruise ship, got to the airport, waited in line, went to the lounge, got to the gate. It's time to board. The plane just got in a couple hours prior to boarding. What happens? Something's broken. Did we leave that day? No, we did not. We sat at the gate for almost like 10 hours waiting for them to fix it, and we just had to leave the next day. And things like that happen. If I had something to do the day that I was getting in, that was my fault. Like, why did you plan to have something as far as a meeting, a family event the day of? Now I'm upset. Well, it's my own fault.
I guess this is equivalent to, and correct me if I'm wrong, of getting, like, if you're driving to a destination and getting there on time means you're late. This happens to me a lot, where I gotta be somewhere by 9 a.m. It only takes me 20 minutes to get there, so I'll leave at 8:40. That's fine.
Right.
8:40 hits, and it says, like, ETA 9 a.m., great. And then traffic, accident, road closure. And now I'm, like, sweating, I'm anxious, and lessons over lessons. So that's the equivalent, correct, of driving.
Absolutely.
Is planning at least a day or so ahead.
Right. When I travel, like, been going on cruises lately, leisurely, and traveling I recently traveled out of Long Beach for a cruise, and I think we were there like a day and a half before our cruise. That's great. Southern California, so it's quick to get there. If flights don't get me there in time, you can always drive. There's a little bit of leeway. I travel internationally for my cruises, or I'm going 3 or 4 days in advance, because everything becomes a domino effect, and you have to prepare. You have to have that cushion. Then I can't be upset at gate agents and flight attendants and snapping at everyone. This was my judgment call.
So you're saying then to have the mindset as a traveler of an airplane to prepare for the worst, or to think the worst will happen in terms of like delays?
Prepare for the worst.
Prepare for the worst. Okay.
Right. Leave time for error.
There you go. Yep. And I have a question for you as a flight attendant, because I'm on this side of the passenger now being late and looking like an idiot, trying to like maneuver through traffic. I'm that guy running through the airport because I couldn't get there on time, or I didn't want to get there early. But what have you seen in terms of behavior from your side of the flight attendants and the pilots and stuff like that? Like, what chatter goes on in between you and your coworkers when you see someone like me who is rushing through and trying to cut the line? What
Not my fault. You might be missing your connection. We don't know about your connection because we haven't left yet. First thing passengers want to know about is their connections. And I think like airlines are actually they're advancing their own technology, with their apps and their push notifications. If they see that the current flight that you're on, you can get on an app, talk to an agent, possibly put yourself on a flight that's about to leave in the next 1 or 2 hours and not stay on and wait for that plane to be fixed. Or they can push your connection flight back, little room for you. But comes to our side, it's like we work for a company, right? So we just sit back. We have to have patience. That's what we're taught. That's what delays and cancellations have forced us to have patience and just wait. Everything's an estimated time. Your departure's an estimated time. Your landing is an estimated time, because you can get there earlier and you can definitely get there much later.
Do you guys have special training on patience particularly, or how to handle people who get there late and are anxious and are yelling at you, raising their voice and are being rude? Do you guys go through special training, or is that just kind of like common sense that kicks in as a flight attendant or someone who works at the airport?
I think you have to use good judgment on how to handle a situation like that occurs. Yelling back and forth with somebody is not going to work. You have to find calmness, speak to them softly, tell them to bring it down. You're going to have someone else talk to them, because the way that you're talking to me is not going to work. If I talk to you the way you talk to me, there's a possibility I can lose my job. You have to use your own common sense on how to handle that situation. And sometimes it's probably best to walk away and let another colleague take over if you cannot refrain from getting into it with that passenger.
Have you ever had to do that, and how often have you had to do that in your 10-year career?
I haven't had to have someone step in for me. I'm usually the person that steps in for other people because I have...
pretty patient.
Well, you have to be patient. You have to find this sense of calmness within and talk to them. And the other day, I had someone upset about their food choice. And to me, it's airplane food. But to someone else, this is their meal that they're eating. They haven't eaten. It was their choice not to eat at home or not to eat at the airport or prepare. But I am here to help find a solution. But I'm going to talk to you calmly. We're not going to get anywhere if you yell at me. So let's bring it down and talk it out.
It's like you're talking to children. That's essentially what it is.
You wouldn't believe some big kids that are passengers.
Okay, so essentially, in a nutshell, what you're saying is prepare for the worst. Get there early, right? So if you have a meeting at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday, consider flying in maybe late evening Monday or even...
Absolutely.
Right?
Or the night before, landing at 10 o'clock, go to your hotel, take a shower, and you are there. You're ready. And if something happens, then there's a possibility you can get there the next day. You have a little bit of room. You could probably get there at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning and continue on. But I like to have a nice 24-hour gap if possible. It's just because you never know.
In theory, it's simple, but it's hard to practice.
Absolutely. I mean, because we have things going on. You know, the everyday business person is moving a mile a minute and every minute counts for them. They don't have 24 hours to wait. Unfortunately, then when it happens, you have to say, well, this is the price that I paid for not giving myself a reasonable amount of time to get to my destination.
So as a dad, I don't travel often, but when I do, I act with a sense of paranoia. And sometimes my wife will be like, dude, you got to take it down a notch. You're just too antsy. But if I'm not antsy, we're not going to get there. Right?
Right.
We're not going to get there. Like the anxiety for me, Dorothy, honestly, leaves my body once I'm on that plane. And then it's another sense of anxiety, which is for another episode.
Right.
So, that's cool. Thanks for sharing your experience and what us as travelers should do.
Absolutely.
On things like this. So this episode of Airplane Talk, what can your listeners expect from you by listening, by subscribing, by tuning in to Airplane Talk?
Just tips to help guide you. There are tons of first-time travelers. I get on threads often and I see people's, what should I bring a flight attendant? It's not necessarily you have to bring flight attendants gifts. We really just want you to be on your best behavior, to have a little bit of common sense, and for us to get to our destination safely with no problem. We appreciate the gifts and we're very thankful for them. There's certain things I think people don't know. For example, if you're the middle seat passenger, you get both of the armrests. That's the golden rule. You have the window passenger gets the window. The aisle passenger has a little bit of extra leg room, but that middle seat passenger gets the armrest. Some people don't know that. Get your armrest.
Oh, man.
Absolutely. Some people don't know the other etiquette would be when there's a dining service, yes, your seat reclines and 100% use your reclined seat. But when everybody's eating and there's a meal service, bring your seat forward. Allow the person behind you to eat. Your seat is so far back and they're bumping there. Like, that's not going to work. Let's be courteous. Your tray is picked up. Those lights go down. There you go. Recline the seat again. No issues. It's just unspoken rules I think people are not aware of.
Yeah. This podcast, everything you're trying to talk about is trying to just bring this back up to the surface, just in case you didn't know, because I didn't know that. I just learned a couple things today.
See?
So thank you, Dorothy, for that. And where can people find you on socials and things of that nature?
Of course, it's Airplane Talk or Airplane Talk 101. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Spotify, of course, for all the podcasts for you to listen to.
Love it. Thanks, Dorothy. I appreciate it for sharing your knowledge, and I look forward to the next one.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks.
Okay, bye.